You should probably know that I have a really dark and unpredictable side to me.
Stop speaking.
I'm giving you a chance, sweetie.
Say when.
When?
What are you?
We are.
We're Venom!
We are.
Venom!
No.
Oh!
Yeah, we
are
Venom. We're gonna need to work on that.
delicious! You take me to all the finest places.
I need time out.
We always knew it was impossible. That we were alone in the universe. And it's our job to make sure that remains a secret.
Let's go get him.
Oh, shit! We are fugitives. On the run.
My home has found us.
In the shit.
We are living the dream, my friend.
You mean it?
No!
Jesus Christ!
This is chess!
Hello!
There's an army coming that cannot be beaten.
There has to be a reason they're after us.
Eddie. As long as Venom lives, everyone, everything will end.
We may not make it out of this alive, buddy.
Eddie. The time has come.
Be honest with me. How fast do you think you can get that thing to go without killing it?
Only one way to find out.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Sony and Marvel just dropped a brand new Venom 3 trailer. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here. It seems like they're doing a version of Planet Venom from the comics. It looks like we got a version of Baron Mordo in a different universe, a version of the Lizard in a different universe, and a version of that Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene in the Venom universe. They're going all out with the Spider-Man references here and the MCU references. There've been a couple of synopses online. Some of the footage corroborates some of that synopsis, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Based on where the footage begins, it seems like he's still in the Mexico area after the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, after he was transported back to the Venom universe from the Spider-Man No Way Home second Doctor Strange spell. That's why he's wearing the exact same outfit he was wearing during that post-credit scene and during the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, just because it hasn't been that long since he got back to his universe. It looks like we see him on the run. He's walking through the back streets in the middle of the night. He finds a warehouse with a bunch of people doing something really shady like a gang that seems like they try to kill him, and he tries to talk them down because he is Venom, which they turn into a bit of a comedic scene too, because the Venom symbiote gets too excited and tries to complete the "We Are Venom" before they actually say it together. This scene is just meant to be a parody of the first Venom movie when he did this for the first time, and then later in the movie when they actually did say "We Are Venom" together. There are a couple different moments across this trailer that are parodies of moments from the first Venom movie. Then we get the voiceover from Juno Temple's character, who seems like she's playing Lieutenant Patricia Robertson from the comics. There's been some synopsis about her character online. It might be correct, it might not be correct. In the trailer, it seems like she's working with Chiwetel Ejiofor's group, who's playing the Jury from the comics, a group that's going after all the different symbiotes, trying to capture and kill them. Even though Chiwetel Ejiofor, mostly known from Marvel as a version of Baron Mordo, we saw him during Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, is Mordo Supreme, who would become Sorcerer Supreme in his universe. I know there's still questions about what happened to the MCU version of Baron Mordo. Supposedly Scarlet Witch actually killed him at the beginning of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness in a deleted scene. Like he was going after her because he was going after all magic users inside the MCU, and she was going to kill him to show that she was going to be the villain of the movie. But they wound up getting rid of that because they didn't want to tip her hand as the actual villain that early. During Venom: The Last Dance, it seems like he's playing a version of Orwell Taylor in the Venom universe, whose son was killed by Carnage during the events of Let There Be Carnage. So he leads the Jury, who is a group from the comics, which are a bunch of military people in this universe going after all these different symbiotes trying to kill them. In the comics, Orwell Taylor also worked for the Life Foundation, the group from the first Venom movie that knew about them after they first came to Earth. Not totally sure which symbiotes these are here, just because it's kind of hard to pick the color apart. These look fairly similar. We see him find one at a bar that's meant to be the Venom universe of the same bar that we saw during the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene. That actually might be at the beginning of the movie. They might open the movie that way, where they're at that same bar, but it's inside the Venom universe at their version of the hotel, so the bartender looks a little bit different with long hair instead of the way he looked during Spider-Man No Way Home, because it was in the MCU universe.
Paying the bill, no tips, nothing.
Like, wait a minute, this seems familiar, but some things are different. So when you see him put this down and capture this symbiote, it's meant to be a reference to the symbiote from the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, but it's inside the Venom universe, not inside the MCU universe. But they're playing on that post-credit scene, like it's meant to be a spin on that. It seems like they wind up learning about Eddie Brock in Venom through this surveillance footage. Not sure where this is happening. It seems like it's after a big action scene because you see this giant fire in the background and them running away. They go after him as he's running through the wilderness, swimming through the water. You actually see the Venom symbiote taking him through a bunch of different terrain here too. Like they literally just go across the mountains. He finally gets a wardrobe change, changes out of those clothes he's been wearing since the events of Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Seems like he winds up going to Vegas at some point. Finds Mrs. Chen at the slot machines trying to win some money. Seems like they have a little bit of a dance here, have a little bit of fun together. Remember, she knows all about the Venom symbiote. The symbiote actually bonded with her temporarily, and she was also in that crossover scene with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse too, so she knows about the multiverse. Then we actually see Detective Patrick Mulligan, who has become, it seems like, a version of Toxin, who is the offspring of Carnage. So that seems like one of the big twists in the movie is we see a version of Toxin. There were a lot of predictions about this after Venom: Let There Be Carnage, but the way his scene went at the end when his eyes glowed, it was a little hard to tell the way they were going to let his character play out. If you're not familiar with the Toxin character in the comics, he eventually does turn good and acts a little bit more like Venom. Like Patrick Mulligan is able to bargain with him eventually. They come to an agreement and start actually trying to be a good character. Originally, when they spawned, Carnage actually tried to kill it because it thought that it was going to be the fulfillment of this long-time Clintar prophecy that was going to mean the end of it. And even though when Toxin actually begins, when it's first born, it acts more like a traditional symbiote, Patrick Mulligan's instincts as a detective are eventually able to win out, the same way that Eddie Brock eventually turned into more of an anti-hero. Then we actually see Rhys Ifans, who looks like he's in a car with his family and a young boy here. Really big Easter egg because most people see him and they think of the Lizard. Like, wait a minute, is the Lizard going to be in this movie? Because we literally just saw him in Spider-Man No Way Home, just like we saw the Venom character in that movie. This might be in the Nevada desert because he spends so much time in and around Las Vegas area, so maybe they just wind up giving him a ride. Not sure exactly why they would put Rhys Ifans in this movie if he's not going to be the Lizard, like what the spin on his character will be in this universe. Just because they know exactly what they're doing. Like, you put him in the movie, people are going to think Lizard. Then we actually see what look like a bunch of giant symbiote monsters. And we get the scene of all the Clintar, many more of them coming to Earth, which it seems like the monsters are. They're coming for Venom for some reason, or they're coming to take over the Earth, it seems like. When he says "my own have found us" is a big question mark as to why they would want Venom, or if they're simply just trying to take over the Earth. That was kind of the vibe in the first movie, is the astronauts found them. They were kind of doing a version of the Venom origin story where eventually they come to Earth and then just eventually seek to take over. That would have been the next step if they hadn't been stopped. This is where we get to the Planet Venom storyline. We see a scene of him actually attaching itself to the outside of this jet as it's flying through the air. It looks like they have a battle with one of these super Clintar monsters, like a much more mature, much more powerful monster on the outside in the middle of the air. I love the way the Venom symbiote itself reacts to this. Like, this is part of its race. They have a hive mind, so it would know all about these. But every time it goes up against another member of its race, it always seems surprised for some reason. Then it seems like Orwell Taylor also learns about the other Clintar that are coming to Earth that he's afraid of. Like, he's not just going for revenge because of the death of his son. He's also worried about stopping this army. I think they just want to make him seem like more of an anti-hero too, so that he's not just a straight-up villain in the film. Part of the arc in the movie, though, is it seems like he might come around on the Venom character, sensing that they do want to stop the other Clintar just like he wants to stop them. Then we get the voiceover from Patrick Mulligan in Toxin voice, like you're hearing Toxin's voice, but the way they do the voices for like the Venom symbiote, for instance, is it's Tom Hardy with his voice just modulated. So this is Detective Patrick Mulligan's voice modulated when he's in Toxin form. It seems like he actually joins forces with Patrick Mulligan, telling them that unless they kill Venom, everybody is going to die, for some reason. It seems like that has something to do with the reason why the rest of the Clintar want the Venom symbiote. Maybe that has something to do with their trip across the multiverse in Spider-Man, we'll see. This is Venom and the other Clintar inside their military base. When he hypes up the fact that they might die, like we might not make it out of this, and the Venom symbiote says, it's time, he's probably talking about it being time for them to actually physically separate, because then they have the funny scene of it bonding with the horse, like how fast can we make this thing go? That scene is actually meant to be a parody of the motorcycle scene from the first Venom movie where they go over the hill like super high and he winds up flying off and the tendrils grab him and pull him back to the motorcycle, but this time it's a horse. And we get the full title, like the title is Venom Last Dance. It's meant to be a reference to that Chicago Bulls documentary, The Last Dance, which is meant to chronicle their final big run, like their final big season of them just completely dominating during the 90s before the team itself broke apart. So obviously meant to be a metaphor for Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote separating during this movie, or potentially. Part of the idea, too, is that it's also meant to be the last Venom solo movie that Sony makes, even though it's one of the only spin-off movies from the Spider-Man franchise that they've made in live action that's making any money, so why would they stop making it? They just seemingly pumped the brakes on a lot of their other spin-offs, like there's still the Kraven movie coming out after this, again later this year. But it seems like Sony isn't developing any more live-action spin-off movies outside of the live-action Miles Morales movie right now. Like, the only movies that they're doing outside of Venom that are doing really well are the Spider-Verse movies, but those are animated, like a completely separate group inside Sony doing those. Talking more about the Spider-Man of it all, there's a leaked synopsis that claims that Spider-Man, the Peter Parker character, is going to be in the movie as a 10-year-old child. I don't know how much truth there is to that. It's just a rumor right now, so we'll see. Because it's in the Venom universe, it would have to be a completely different version of the character that's not the Tom Holland version. For a long time, Sony has been wanting their own version of Spider-Man to show up in these movies. Personally, I think it would be much easier if they made the Venom universe be the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man universe and tied it to his character, or they just made their live-action Spider-Man Miles Morales. But right now, the plans for the Venom character for Tom Hardy after this movie is that he will continue as the Venom character. So even though they make it seem like this is going to be, quote-unquote, their last dance together before they, quote-unquote, break up, early theory is that before the end of the movie, they wind up teaming up with the Toxin character and the two of them stop the other Clintar from taking over the entire Earth. And if they don't wind up killing the Toxin character, he also winds up becoming an anti-hero just like he did in the comics too. After this, though, I believe Kevin Feige is going to let Venom, or wants Venom, to actually show up during Secret Wars just because he is a fan of Tom Hardy and what he's done with the character so far. And as for the Spider-Man side of things with Tom Holland in the MCU, they're supposed to follow up on the symbiote in the MCU universe during that movie at some point, but I don't think he's meant to get the actual symbiote until Secret Wars itself. Like, they'll just follow up on that post-credit scene on the Spider-Man side of things. I think it's pretty easy to see that at some point during Tom Holland's sequel trilogy, like Spider-Man 5, Spider-Man 6, at some point they'll do his version of a symbiote saga, but not during Spider-Man 4. Spider-Man 4 seems like it's meant to be more of a grounded movie, so I'm not expecting it to connect with the Kraven movie. We'll see if there's any kind of Kraven post-credit scene during Venom The Last Dance there, though. It seems like they wanted the Madam Web movie to connect with everything, but at the last minute they removed all the different crossovers with all the different other characters that it could cross over with. You'd think there would have been a Venom post-credit scene during Madam Web at some point, but technically that movie took place in the early 2000s, so it does kind of make sense why Venom didn't show up during that. Generally, it just seems like everything is a mess over at Sony. The Kraven movie could also just stand over on its own too, just because it takes place during a slightly different part of the timeline. I think that just depends on what the future of the Kraven character winds up being. Really hoping, fingers crossed, that it winds up being a solid movie. Let us pray that it is not Kraven time again, but Venom The Last Dance actually looks like it's going to be pretty solid just based on the trailer and the stuff they have so far. so I am more hopeful for this movie, which should actually be a good ending for this trilogy. Generally, of all the live-action Spider-Man spin-off movies that Sony has done so far, the Venom movies on the whole have been pretty solid B movies. So everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. If there's any big Easter eggs in the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments, and I'll put them in my bonus videos because we will start getting some more footage this year. There's a bunch of stuff coming up this week. We have Acolyte episodes coming tomorrow. My video for that will be up Tuesday night. And then we have House of the Dragon Season 2 videos. Another big connection to the trailer here because Otto Hightower also played the lizard Rhys Ifans. A lot of Rhys Ifans happening right now. And we have The Boys Season 4. So June is going to be stacked with stuff. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of those episodes. I just did a much bigger Spider-Man 4 video. Click here to learn what's going on with that, and click here to learn why Marvel is rebooting the MCU in the next several years. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.